guys, welcome back to Your Mindset, Your Power. Can I ask you something? Is there something in your life right now that feels difficult to navigate? Maybe a decision you keep going back and forth on, or a conversation you're really avoiding, a dream that feels exciting and terrifying at the same time? Or maybe you're simply wondering, am I going to be okay? If that's you, my friend, I'm really glad you're here because I think today's conversation might help you see it a little differently. The reality is that 5 years ago, you were probably worried about something that barely crosses your mind today, right? Not because it wasn't difficult. I'm sure it was. But life kept moving. You kept moving. And what once felt so difficult to navigate eventually became part of your story. Perspective changes everything, my friend. And today, I'd like to share a simple exercise with you, one that has changed the way I look at difficult seasons in my own life, and one that I've also shared with many of my coaching clients. Listen, I've watched people walk into a coaching session feeling so overwhelmed and leaving seeing the exact same situation differently. Not because the problem disappeared, no, but because their perspective changed. And sometimes that's all it takes to see the next step. We all have experienced this in one way or another. When we are in the middle of something difficult, our perspective gets small, really small. We see today's problem, today's fear, today's uncertainty, and that's completely normal. Because when emotions are high, clarity usually gets low. Everything starts to feel foggy. And the truth is, the worries underneath that fog are often very similar. For some people, maybe they wonder, am I ever going to find my purpose? And maybe others are thinking, did I choose the wrong career? Will I ever feel financially secured? Am I too late to start over? Will I meet the right person? Should we have kids? What if I fail? What if I make the wrong decisions? And the list goes on, my friend. Because the truth is, navigating life isn't supposed to feel perfectly clear, right? Life has curves, unexpected detours, moments where we question everything, where we doubt ourselves. You're human, my friend, and it doesn't mean you're behind. And you're certainly not the only one walking through uncertainty. We are all learning as we go. We are all figuring it out together. And if no one has told you lately, you're not alone, my dear friend. I'm right here beside you. And listen, the reality is that when we stay too stuck in the problem for too long, it can become difficult to see anything beyond it. Right? So we replay the same thoughts, we question the same decisions, we imagine every possible worst-case scenario. And little by little, fear begins to shape the way we see the situation. That is where this exercise can help. Not by giving you a perfect answer, no, but by helping you step back from the emotional noise long enough to see the situation from a wider perspective. So, here's what I'd like us to do together for the next few minutes. I would like you to imagine having a conversation with future you. I know, it might sound a little unusual at first, but listen, stay with me, my friend, because this exercise is not about predicting your future. It's not about focusing on the final destination. It is simply a tool to help you change your perspective in the present, to understand where you are, where you want to be, and what your next step could be, one step at a time. So let's begin. I want you to find a comfortable position. Let's take a slow, deep breath. And let's time travel for just a few minutes, my friend. I want you to picture yourself a few years from today. It doesn't have to be 5 years. No, it could be 1, it could be 6 months, it could be 10 years. The timeline doesn't matter. Now, imagine meeting that future version of yourself, not a perfect version, not someone who suddenly has life completely figured out. No, just you, a little older, a little wiser, a little more experienced. Someone who has lived through the very thing that's keeping you awake today. Take a moment and really picture that version of you in the future. How do you see yourself? How are you carrying yourself? What's different about you? Your body language, the way you speak. Don't rush it. Just let the picture come to you. Now, imagine the two of you meeting in your favorite little coffee shop. You walk in, and there you are, future you, smiling at you. With that chill vibe. Not because life became perfect, no, but because future you already knows something you don't know yet. You made it through ups and downs, through challenging times at all. And it says, hi, pull up a chair, take a seat, let's have a conversation. Do you have questions to ask me? Do you want to know anything about your future? There are only 3 questions I would like you to ask, my friend. Not 10, just 3. If you are somewhere you can write them down, I encourage you to do that. Just no expectations of perfect answers, okay? Just honest ones. First question. What will you thank me for? What will you thank me for? My guess is that the person you're becoming probably isn't going to thank you for having everything figured out. No, because that's not how life works. Instead, the you in the future will probably thank you for the small, courageous moments. For sending that email you were so afraid to send. For applying for the job you were not sure you'll get. For setting the boundary that made your hands shake. For asking for help. For trying again after something didn't work out. For refusing to give up on yourself. Those are the moments that quietly change a life and gives you perspective, my friend. Let's go to the second question. What are you most proud of? Notice I didn't ask, what are you most successful at? No, I asked, what are you most proud of? Because those are rarely the same thing. Maybe your future will say, I'm proud that you kept showing up when you wanted to quit. I'm proud you started before you felt ready. I'm proud that you stopped waiting for certainty. I'm proud you chose courage over comfort. Sometimes the greatest accomplishment isn't what you achieved. It's who you became while trying. Let's go to the third question. What do you want me to let go of? What do you want me to let go of? Maybe your future you gently smiles and says, let go of that constant overthinking. Let go worrying too much about your future. Let go of comparing your journey to everyone else's. Let go letting fear consume you. And because so much of what you have been carrying, my friend, hasn't been the situation itself. It's been the weight of trying to answer questions that only time can answer. So take a moment. What answers came to you? Were they exactly the words you expected? Or did something surprise you? Sometimes clarity doesn't come because we think harder, my friend. Sometimes clarity comes because we finally ask ourselves better questions. You know, this whole idea reminds me of something that happened recently. I was looking out the window during a flight as we were taking off, and all I could see were thick clouds, gray, heavy, for a few minutes. It almost felt like the sun had disappeared. But the plane kept climbing. Little by little, the clouds began to break. The sunlight started coming through, and suddenly there it was, beautiful blue sky. The sun had been there all along. I just could not see it from where I was. Life can feel exactly like that. When we are in the middle of a difficult season, all we can see are the clouds. We convince ourselves they're always there. But if we keep moving, if we keep growing, if we keep taking one step at a time, our perspective begins to change. The circumstances may not change overnight, but we do. And because we do, we begin seeing possibilities we could not see before. And sometimes that's all it takes to find the next step, my friend. The truth is, many of those things that scare us the most are simply things we haven't experienced yet. We often mistake the unfamiliar for the impossible, but they're not the same thing. The unfamiliar simply means you haven't been there yet. And the only way to gain experience is to experience it, to take the step, to learn as you go. That's what figure life out really looks like, my friend. None of us wake up one morning knowing exactly what we're doing. No, we learn, we adopt. Sometimes we change directions. Sometimes we discover that the dream we were chasing isn't actually the one we wanted. And that's okay, because growth happens while you're becoming. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from today's conversation. The goal of this exercise isn't to predict your future, and it certainly isn't to become obsessed with the destination. It's actually the opposite. It's to come back to today with a little more perspective, because none of us can predict the future, right? And every single one of us can influence it by the choices we make today. And maybe that's the greatest gift this exercise gives us. Not certainty about tomorrow, but a little more courage for today. Because when we stop expecting ourselves to have life completely figured out, we give ourselves permission to learn, to grow, to change, and to keep moving forward one step at a time. So, my dear friend, I don't want you to simply finish listening to this episode and move on with your day. No, I want you to use it, because insight without action doesn't change anything. So today, I'd like to leave you with one small challenge. Pick one thing, just one small step that future you would be grateful you took today. You already know what it is. I have that feeling. Don't overthink it. Just take the next step, because that's how every meaningful journey is built. One step, then another, then another. Those small steps become experience. Experience builds confidence. And confidence doesn't come from waiting, my friend. It comes from doing. So, as we finish today, our conversation, I want you to remember something. Future you isn't a different person. Future you is simply you, my friend, with a little more experience, a few more lessons, a few more scars, and a whole lot more perspective. Future you didn't get there by having everything figured out. Future you got there the same way every one of us does, one day at a time, one decision at a time, one challenge at a time. None of us can predict the future, but every single one of us can influence it by the choices we make today. So, if life feels uncertain right now, if you're carrying questions you don't have answers to yet, please remember this. You're not behind. You're not failing. You are simply living a chapter that future you has already learned from. Perspective changes everything, my friend. Not because it changes your circumstances overnight, but because it changes the way you walk through them. And sometimes that's all we need to take. That's all we need to take this next step. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Thank you for your messages, for sharing your stories, and for allowing me to be part of your journey. I appreciate you more than you know. And remember, your mindset is not just what you think. It's where your power begins. I'll talk to you next week. I love you guys.